Strange Aeons. Knowledge for knowledge. The party advanced cautiously through the twisting alien corridors of the Migo facility, guided only by the pale glow of Zenobia's staff. They had passed chambers filled with suspended brains and organs floating in glass, their distorted reflections swimming in the obsidian steel of the Migo's arcane science. But this hallway was different. The walls seemed to breathe, exhaling an ancient, invisible miasma. Angelica led, twin blades drawn, anticipation glittering in her eyes. Jock followed, hammer at the ready. Graylin muttered to himself, clutching a scrap of vellum scrawled with sigils that would unhinge the minds of lesser mortals. Malachi brought up the rear. He paused. Before him stood a seamless doorway etched with translucent runes. His breath caught, eyes glazing. He reached out, fingers tracing the edges. The door hissed open with a breath of fetid air, and then, without a word, Malachi stepped into the darkness. "Malachi!" Zenobia called. No answer. Percival popped out of the witch's bag and hissed loudly. "Damn it!" Jock bellowed, charging after him. The others followed, but the moment they crossed the threshold, time distorted, stretching and snapping like a brittle sinew. The chamber beyond was a cathedral of decay. Luminescent mycelium pulsed from slick organic walls. Stalactites dripped with pale ichor. At the center rose a towering brain-like mass, riddled with tendrils and glassy orbs that blinked like eyes. Malachi knelt before it, whispering prayers or madness. Then the voice came, not heard but felt, a vibration in their bones. "This one is open. I see him, I drink him, but his memories are gone. His soul is gone." Tendrils lashed out. Angelica darted, slashing, but another caught her wrist. Her mind ignited with 1,000 deaths she had once dealt. She screamed. Jock roared and crushed a tentacle with his hammer. Black sap splattered like bile. But for every limb severed, more emerged. Graylin fell back, laughing and weeping. "It's devouring my mind!" The thing spoke again. "You are new. You bring flavor." Percival climbed up onto Zenobia's shoulders and cast a warding spell. A shimmering barrier tore into the creature, and one of its blinking orbs shattered. Malachi blinked, clarity returning to his eyes. "It's bored," he said. "It wants knowledge. Let's teach it something new." Jock struck hard, spores erupting like storm clouds. Angelica freed, leapt and plunged both blades into the pulsing node. The thing wailed and began to collapse. As it died, it whispered, "So, this is death. Curious. I thank you. I will give knowledge for knowledge. Ask." Graylin stepped forward, Where is Lowell's? The creature spasmed, and a thick ichor spilled out onto the floor. But it continued to speak. His body is on the Selin River, but his mind walks in the dreamlands. He seeks the Necronomicon. You must find the mad poet. He can tell you where to go. He also has something that belongs to you. Find the caravanserai. Then there was only silence. As the party caught their breath, Angelica moved cautiously ahead. The stone floor grew slick with condensation. The scent of ozone curled like a mist. She stepped into a vaulted chamber, Graylin at her side. In the center hung a monstrous creature, chained in glimmering alien metal. A gug, a towering beast of madness and pain. Its eyes burned with hate, its arms strained against its bonds, its vertical maw, jagged and dripping with bile, snarled in anguish. By the dark tapestry, Graylin breathed. They've experimented on it. Lady of Graves, help us, Malachi muttered. The gug roared, its voice deeper than sound. They bored into my flesh, pulled my thoughts, filled me with their chittering. Free me, tiny apes, and I shall give you death against death. Angelica drew her dagger. We should kill it. If we don't, it might tear free anyway. But Raikus hesitated. I think it hates them more than us. The giant creature swore in some incomprehensible language. Fools! It's too late. The Guardians are coming. I might have saved you. The chamber warped in a sudden stomach-churning ripple. 3 points in space folded into sharp angles, impossible geometries blooming in the stale air. Through these portals, the hounds of Tyndalos came, slipping through corners that did not exist moments before, elongated, eyeless, their skin wet with oil and bristling with fang-like needles. Time and space cracked around them. Jock met one head-on, blade slicing through muscle that bled smoke. Angelica slipped through shadows, stabbing deep into another. It screamed, not in pain, but with the weight of her regrets. Graylin cast a sigil. For a heartbeat, reality held. The hounds recoiled, then lunged again. One tore into Malachi, glyphs flaring uselessly. Zenobia launched a shard of ice, pinning a beast, but it vanished, reappearing behind her. Percival quickly shot at the thing with its laser eyes, allowing them to escape a fatal attack. Raikus looked at the gug and drew on the wisdom of his ancestors. Speaking in the old tongue of the creature's native land. "O Great One, I can see the hate you have for your enemies, our enemies. Lead us into battle, so we may sing of your great deeds and victories." The charmed words seemed to have an effect. It was impossible, but the giant creature seemed to grin. The skald looked at the occultist. Graylin yelled, "Rikus, what are you doing?" "Trust me." Graylin hesitated only a moment before nodding. Rikus walked to the lever and pulled it. Chains groaned. The gug dropped. It hit the floor like a mountain collapsing, then rose, snarling, tendons twitching. Its malformed hands gripped a fallen slab of alien alloy and hurled it against the nearest hound, crushing it in a blast of ichor and shattered time. The other two whirled, only to be caught in a storm of claws and teeth. The gug ripped one apart in mid-lunge, tossing limbs across the chamber. The last tried to vanish into the wall, but Angelica caught it in a moment of vulnerability, driving a blade into its side, and the gug finished it, jaws clamping down on its neck with a sickening snap. Then silence again. Trua stood, bloodied, panting. Zenobia helped Malachi to his feet. The cleric, half-conscious, lips moving in broken prayers. Graylin stared at the gug, whose eyes still burned with anger. The occultist took a deep breath as it turned towards the party. "We have shed blood together. You have earned this moment. But remember, my torment, my pain." It leapt into the shadows beyond, crashing through metal doors. Everyone followed. The chamber beyond was vast, wider than any structure could survive beneath the sea, and yet there it stood, encased in a glass dome so perfect it could not be the work of human hands. Beyond the glass, the sea churned. Graylin could see immense tentacles, thick as oaks and covered in glyphic scars, as they rubbed slowly against the outside of the dome. The water rippled with unnatural light, a bruised and bubbling pulse that radiated from a rising vortex above, swirling with stars that should not exist. Rikus marveled at the sight above him. "By the gods of the north, they have opened some kind of portal." In the center, suspended in a crystalline cylinder, was Cassius Septima. No longer human, tendrils pulsed beneath his skin, horns sprouted from his skull. The Mi-Go worked around him, their tools glinting, their wings humming notes that made the air taste of rust. "By Vimalos," Zenobia whispered, "they're turning him into a vessel." "No," Graylin said, "not merely a vessel. This is a manifestation of Shub-Niggurath, the black goat of the woods." The chamber shuddered. The glass dome groaned and cracked as a massive eye opened in the void beyond it, split-pupiled and ringed in flame-blackened folds. Water began to pour through the splintering glass. The tentacles spasmed with ecstasy. Something immense was slipping through. Angelica moved first. She vanished in a flicker of shadow, reappearing at the base of the cylinder and stabbing deep into the controls. Sparks flew, but the Migos screeched and closed in, attacking her with their strange energy weapons. Jock roared, intercepting them with wide arcs of his hammer. Percival cut down several of the creatures with pulses of energy. Chitin cracked. One Migo burst into a cloud of spores that reeked of decaying vegetation. Then a portal tore open. From it came swarms of biomechanical insects. Chitin, flesh, and steel fused into a monstrosity. They flooded the chamber. Jock bellowed a war cry and cleaved through the first wave, ichor sizzling on his massive warhammer. Zenobia and Percival conjured a crackling sphere of energy that took several of the creatures in a blast of arcane power. Malachi's radiant mace cast sanctified light, burning away the foes, but for every one they felled, more emerged. "The portal!" Raikus cried. Jock was already moving, smashing his hammer into the portal's core. At the same moment, Raikus sang a resonant countertone, vibrating through the chamber, disrupting the portal's frequency. The portal imploded in a burst of pale blue fire. The swarm spasmed. Deprived of their source, many simply collapsed, their biomechanical systems failing catastrophically. Raikus pointed towards the thing that had once been Cassius. "Destroy the cylinder!" Zenobia fired a volley of fireballs towards the base. They hit with a sizzle, but the structure absorbed the heat. Then came the Gug. The Gug, seeing the giant tentacled creature manifesting in the room, turned away from the Migo and lunged. The massive creature hit the cylinder with an ear-shattering crack, and the container split open. From within, a mass of black tendrils and fetid mouths erupted, writhing upwards towards the portal. Cassius's torso cracked open like chrysalis, birthing something horrific, something that reeked of spoiled milk and fungus. It was not yet complete, but it was awakening. Cassius rose, its tentacles wrapping around the Gug. Raikus fired a Migo weapon at the thing, but the wound sealed instantly. "In Pharasma's name, return to the void!" Malachi cried, bathed in holy fire, but the spell had no effect. Two long tentacles reached out and wound around Grayland's body. The occultist was lifted into the air. "We can't hurt it. It's an avatar. It's not alive as we know it." Zenobia saw something whirling in the half-light of the laboratory. "Do you see that?" she whispered to Percival. The cat gave a low growl. It was some kind of terrifying machine. At its heart was a turbine-like maw, a vertical drum of spinning obsidian teeth arranged on spiraling helices, each etched with a blasphemous rune that shimmered with dark energy. The teeth were razor-thin and impossibly sharp, vibrating at frequencies that could liquefy muscle and shatter bone. She gasped in horror when she realized its purpose. It was a corpse shredder made to dispose of the victims of the Migo's diabolical experiments. But then they saw the chance at victory. The wizard grabbed Raikus by the arm. "Do you still have that alien syringe we found in the storage room?" The Skald nodded. "Good. Inject it into the Gug and tell it to push the creature into that machine. Raikus leapt between the two giants, barely avoiding being crushed or entangled. He looked up at the Gug and shouted, "O great king of the nighted vaults, exile of the dreaming city, I honor your strength and courage, great one." The huge creature snapped back in anger. "Fool! Do you not see I am locked in glorious combat with a great foe? I am strong, but it is stronger. I must prepare myself for a glorious death. How could one such as you understand?" Raikus reached into his bag and found one of the strange alien syringe-like devices. "By Nodin's wraith, Lord of the Great Abyss, perhaps all is not lost. Do you not see the great spinning wheel of metal blades?" The Gug scanned the room briefly. "I do, but even I am not strong enough to..." Raikus jammed the point of the metallic tube into the Gug's leg. A searing heat coursed through its veins like molten steel. The Gug's muscles clenched, then swelled beneath its thick hide, cords of power ripping along its 4 gigantic arms. A low growl escaped the creature's throat, a primal animal sound. The Gug could feel the power coming into its limbs, ready to explode. It slammed its massive arms into the abomination's flank. Tentacles coiled around it, spearing into its flesh, but the Gug didn't stop. Angelica leapt forward and slashed at the tendons of the tree-like beast. Jock hacked at its legs. Zenobia wove burning sigils into the air to blind its inner sight. It reared up, a tower of loathing and madness, and then the Gug screamed and hurled itself forward. Together it and the avatar of Shub-Niggurath crashed into the whirling maw of death. The air split apart with a sound like 1,000 banshees screaming. Tentacles flailed and disintegrated into a bloody spray of rotten meat. The dome above exploded outwards as the outer gods screamed in rage. The corpse shredder buckled, then ripped apart as a gout of black mist and blood shot upwards into the rift, followed by the avatar's lifeless bulk. A swirling mass of flesh and debris was sucked upwards into the vacuum created by the collapsing rift. The Gug's last defiant howl echoed through the abyss as its form was ripped apart. "I am Karl Rugoth, the Mawborn, crusher of bones. Tell my people of my glory!" "There is a portal at the end of the chamber. Get to it now," Zenobia shouted, as the entire complex crumbled around them. Graylin helped everyone through the gate. Before he stepped through, he looked behind. Millions of gallons of lake water was rushing to fill the void left by the collapsing structure. He jumped. Eldritch wind tore at his flesh as he passed through the infinite dark corridors and shrinking voids, past the grim visage of weeping stars and dying worlds. Then there was only silence. He tumbled out into an empty alleyway. Jock slapped him on the back with his wet tentacle arm. Never thought I'd be glad to see Thrushmore. They were all panting, bloodied and broken, but still alive. Angelica touched her temples, wiping away the black spores that still clung to her face. We made it. Graylin looked back at the place where the portal had closed. Then he looked at Rikus. The Gug came through for us, I guess. On the horizon, a brilliant light exploded like 1,000 suns, but quickly faded and was gone. The water roiled, and a great wave smashed along the rocky shore. But soon, the surging waters ran back into the lake. Malachi looked up. Zenobia set Percival on the ground and put her hand on the cleric's arm. "What's wrong?" The cleric looked wistful, but smiled. "Nothing. For once, absolutely nothing is wrong, sister. I might get used to this."